Good. Did you hear mine playing in the background? Good morning.
That's beautiful.
Good morning and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. I am the Badass Buddha, Dr. Lori Monaco, coming to you from a very foggy southern Connecticut where the temperatures are going up and the snow is melting. So that's probably why it's so foggy. And I am the CEO of Align Yourself, Inc. I am an authenticity teacher, speaker, coach. I am your fat eviction specialist, helping you get rid of unwanted fat and gaining back your health. And I guess that's it. So good morning and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche.
Buenos días. Good morning. Hola. Ciao. Aloha. Arrivederci. Sayonara. Good morning, mi gente. Buenos días. I am La Margarita, your spiritual and creative healing life coach. I am your author, your poet, your artiste. I am magically orgasmic, and I welcome you this morning to Viva Cafe con Leche from your gladiator guru and the badass Buddha. Grab your taza de café, women up, mi gente, and let's do this.
Oh my God, I left my coffee over there. I have to go get it. So why don't you give shout outs to everybody? I'm going to go get my coffee.
Please don't tell me what to do. Good morning, Tiffany Bryant, Francia, Elena, buenos días, Chanel Real Deal, good morning, prima. And welcome this happy Thursday. Welcome, because it's a beautiful morning.
One of these days we're going to be so big that I'm going to have an assistant grab the coffee that I left sitting somewhere. I'm just going to, the minute I say, oh, and my coffee is, I don't have my coffee, then some assistant is going to come from nowhere with my cup of coffee. So dream big, mi gentes. All right. Good morning to Linda McBee is on. So all is right in the world. Then we have our crew and we're building up slowly but surely. So good morning. We're entering another week into Women's History Month. We're celebrating women. I mean, listen, seriously, we celebrate women every single day here on this show, especially. But yes, let's really emphasize how phenomenal we have been in history. And, you know, it was interesting. So Monday was International Women's Day. And there was a post that, I was looking at all the posts and I was loving it. But I ended up posting something and I said, isn't technically every day International Women's Day? I mean, really, like we're going to celebrate it one day a year. We need to celebrate it every single day. Right? Every single day.
We need to, and we're going to have a show on that. But that's what I preach. And that's what I preach to the women I meet. And some women who don't have the strong enough belief. I'm a little hard on them. But sometimes when you're waking somebody out of a deep slumber, you can't go gently. You have to pour cold water on their face to get them to wake up and be like, oh my God, I overslept, I'm late or whatever. And stop being late and showing up into your feminine life. You know, you are the breeders of life. You're warrior goddesses. We weren't put here to be second class. And we got to start remembering what our purpose here on earth. And we are the everything, you know, like if it wasn't for us, there wouldn't be an overpopulation in this world. Men can only plant the seed. We cultivate it. So, you know, we cultivate it, we carry it, we nurture it, we nourish it. Our bodies become all entangled and all twisted up like a salty pretzel until sometimes it goes back and sometimes it doesn't. But we keep moving because we brought a life into this world. So I think we need to start celebrating. Whether you're a breeder of life or an awesome auntie, it's still the same thing. You're a woman powerhouse, trendsetting and trailblazing the way for everyone else to be able to come in and follow without all the trials and tribulations we went through. So I think unfuck yourself and stand up and put that crown on and rule your world.
Unfuck yourself. That's words to live by. Words to live by so early in the morning. Unfuck yourself. That's perfect.
And women up, you know, we just have so much.
You said something actually really key, Gladiator Guru. You said Some women don't wake up, and they need a big jolt. And so I think sometimes too, once we get past a certain age, we know we have to wake up, but we think, oh my God, it's too late for me to change, or why bother? As long as you're breathing, you got to
It's
wake
never
up.
too late.
I don't give a shit if it's year 80. Just get up and just do it. Say, fuck it. And if you have people around you going, what are you doing? You're this age, you're that age. All the more reason to say it and get the hell away from those people. That's what you have to do.
It was a couple years ago, I read how this 80-year-old woman went and got her college degree. The only time it's late is when you're dead, I think. And the only time it's late is when you give up on yourself. And then we get so angry how people don't show up in our lives when we're the ones missing. And I think that we have to wake up. We have to wake up, stay woke, and we have to participate in our own lives. Because, and I think, when we come together, it's like, who needs a man to guide our army or to be in our army? Maybe to build stuff, but you know what? Women should start becoming more blacksmiths. I love the whole idea of a blacksmith. I don't know. I think that's awesome. Let's make our own swords and blades. And
we have a few shout outs. You want to do some more shout outs real quickly before we get rocking and rolling?
Yeah, go ahead. You've been typing away.
I've been typing
Chanel
away.
And Linda McBee. So Luis Sanchez. Good morning, primo. Wanda Stover. You have Iritza. Chanel says, your cup says woman up. Yes, ma'am. Woman up with that pink exclamation point.
Attica says, good morning too, or Attica's watching. Walahala. And just, guys, keep something in mind too, or ladies and men, that we have a way to watch all the comments scrolling right on the screen, which is fantastic. It's like the best thing ever. But if you don't comment, then we actually don't know you're here necessarily, unless we keep looking at the Facebook scroll on the phone. So we really would love for you. Sometimes we miss you and we don't like missing anybody. So I'm usually looking at the scroll first on the screen, and I might miss somebody if you don't say good morning. So definitely, jump on, because sometimes I don't want to miss anybody. And I know Gladiator Guru doesn't want to miss anybody either. So good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, Lillian. Lillian says, good morning, Reinas. Good morning, yes. Queens. Yes, ajusta tu corona. We have a show tonight at 7, so that's going to be exciting. And Erica. So
Buenos
dias.
So yes, we're continuing our conversation all month long. We're going to be talking about like women, really, really talking up women empowerment. Today's conversation is going to be specifically talking about, are you an empath or an HSP, which means highly sensitive person? And the reason this is a great conversation, because women notoriously are called, they're too sensitive, they're too this. Interestingly, being an empath or an HSP is, it could be either gender. I mean, so it doesn't really, or whatever you feel that you are. It has nothing. It's not gender biased. Let's put it that way. But it's especially women are always, told, oh, you're too sensitive, you're too this. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about what it is, because it's actually a real thing. But then we're going to talk about how to, gain strength from this. The other thing is just the shows coming up. So I just wanted to say them very quickly. So Tuesday's show is The Power of Pussy and we're getting a guy to sit in on this, which is Byron Ropemore, which most of you know. Byron's been on numerous times, and he could totally handle that conversation. So we have no doubt at all that Byron is going to be fantastic. The other shows that are coming up for March celebrating Women's History Month, we have From Doc to Patient to Epiphany. We're going to talk with Dr. Christine Sawyer next Thursday. She's going to talk about becoming whole and sort of breaking the barriers of having, being the quote doc, but then all of a sudden becoming the patient, and what's that like. On Tuesday, March 23rd, Nicole Young is going to join us with what the world would look like if women ran the world. Right. So that's going to be.
And what is Nicole Young going to be doing? Nicole Young's going to offer something to our viewers.
Go ahead. Tell them what she's going to offer.
Some tarot readings while you're on. So
Exactly. So you don't want to miss that one at all.
So she's from New Jersey, and she's really on point. Good
Yep.
morning, Jonathan
Yep.
Pookie.
Good morning, Jonathan. March 25th. Hold on, let me just read them and then we'll get back to that in a second. March 25th, Thursday, the shit show of our 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Lysol and rubber gloves not needed. We're going to talk with Nicole Lupushansky, and basically she's going to share her story about how she hit a really low place and then came up. March 30th, the last day, is Women, Coffee, and Conversation. It's a Tuesday show. We're going to talk about whatever comes up, and we have a roundtable conversation with multiple guests at the same time. So it's going to be very exciting. So I'm sorry, Gladiator Guru, go ahead.
No.
Say what you were going to say.
I wanted to go back how they say, a lot of people say women are sensitive. So it's like we're always stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if you are sensitive, then stop crying. You're always crying, Magdalena, all this. You can't say nothing to you. You're so sensitive. But then when you're not, when you're on the opposite side of the spectrum, then you're accused of trying to be the man of the house, of wearing the pants, or you think you got balls. So it's like, be comfortable wherever you at. Wherever you are at, be comfortable. Be true to you. As long as you're true to yourself, who gives a shit how people view you? So,
and actually, if women stand up for themselves, we're actually not called the man of the house. We're called the bitch. That's usually what happens when if we're either too sensitive, or if we behave like a guy or competitive, or we assert ourselves, we're the bitches. So it's either way. It's like we can't seem to
win for losing.
quote, get it right. And because why can't we quote get it right? Because we're playing by somebody else's rules. That's the bottom line. We're playing by a man's rules. So guess what we have to do? We have to set our own fucking rules.
That's it. But that's what I'm saying. If you live authentically and you're comfortable in your skin, and you don't even have to have the strongest confidence level to go out there and wear a 2-piece bikini if you don't want. But just believe in yourself enough to know that you believe in what you say, you believe in what you do, you believe in what hats you're going to wear to the different engagements that you go to. The thing is, be who you are on every hour of your waking day. So when you go to lay your head down on the pillow, you're good with yourself, because that's the only person that God, you, and then everybody else. So if you start adopting that lifestyle, it doesn't matter. If you're living your true self, people are going to get wounded because they don't want you to change, because they got over on you the way you were. You're going to have people cheering you on. We're going to have our pom-poms. So you're going to have a whole mass of people. Who gives a shit about the cheerleaders and the naysayers? Be comfortable in who you are and live your truth. And if you got to say something, say it. Don't talk on both sides of your mouth. Be true to who you are. And somebody says, Margie, did you say, my thing is because I'll say whatever I got to say, but if somebody says, Margie, did you say this? I'm like, well, what did you hear? Because I said a lot. Be specific. And then, so because whatever we say makes a full circle and comes back to the person you said it about. So be true to who you are. Be true to who you are and what you wear and what you drive, what job you do. No job is beneath you, So that's what I'm saying. And before we bring our guests up, before we say our affirmations, make sure you hit like and share. Vale.
Yeah. And, we're going to actually, I haven't even mentioned this to Gladiator Guru yet, but I was thinking about this yesterday. We're going to really challenge all of you, because one of these days, we're just going to show up on YouTube. We're not going to do a broadcast from Facebook. How about that? Because, I know a lot of you are really comfortable with Facebook, but YouTube, if you start to actually subscribe to us on YouTube, there's more of a reach. There's more, you can watch us, anywhere with anyone and blah, blah, blah. And you can share it with anyone. It's so easy to take the YouTube link and share it. You could share us on LinkedIn. You could share us in an email. If you really like what we have to say, and especially if you've been on the show, that's one thing you should be doing is you should be sharing. Yes, I'm shitting on you this morning. You should be sharing those links of the time that you were on the show with your friends and family and sending in emails, so there's a lot more freedom with the YouTube piece of it. So we haven't really seen those numbers rise. And we would love to see that. And again, it's not for any reason except the fact that we believe the content that we have is really phenomenal and special. And what we offer is really special. So we just want to get people to hear it, so please, definitely go onto that YouTube channel, especially subscribe, hit the notification button. You will always be notified when something comes up, and share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn, share it on Instagram, whatever way you want to share it. We'd be happy, we'd be honored actually. So thank you for reminding us, Gladiator Guru, for that.
Hit that bell and get a ding ding when we're doing something.
All right,
affirmations. My quote is from Margaret Thatcher. She says, "If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman." Margaret Thatcher, you gotta love her. Prime Minister of England, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the affirmation is very simple. Trust the magic of new beginnings. Trust the magic of new beginnings. They happen all the time and we miss it. We don't celebrate it. And then we wonder why nothing good happens to us when 5 things just happened to you and you totally dismissed it because they didn't come packaged in gold foil. So trust the magic of new beginnings, mi gente. New beginnings happen all the time, whether they're expected or not, whether you want it or not, but they're going to happen. So trust that there's always something good, especially when something sad happens. There's always the sun shining afterwards. So trust the magic of new beginnings.
I love it. And I'm so glad you picked something from Margaret Thatcher. She was prime minister back in the 80s, and we have yet in this country to have a female at the head of state yet. Right. We got close with the vice president, but I mean, come on, this is both really. I mean, the fact that we didn't have an African-American individual in there or female. I mean, all these other countries, so much more progressive. So anyway, okay. My quote is from Malala Yousafzai. Oh, I got it right this time. So she said, "I had 2 options. One was to remain silent and never to speak and then to be killed by the terrorists. The second option was to speak up for my rights and then die. And I chose the second one." And that is so powerful because you either speak up and die or you don't speak up and die. And that's actually life, right? That's how we live our life. You either live your life and die or you don't live your life and you die. So it's time. Okay.
That's the certainty. You're going to die. It's what you do in between.
That's correct. So the mantra for today is, I choose to live my life. I choose to live my life. So you're going to walk out there today and say this over again, over and over. I choose to live my life.
And if you choose to live your life, trust in the magic of new beginnings.
That's right.
Because that's what it is. Yeah, my dad always said, it's better to die standing up than like a coward on your knees. And that's what she's trying to say. Either I be a coward and forget it, or I stand up. Either way, you die inside if you don't say anything, or you can get killed when you speak out. It's just a choice. It's an empowering choice you got to take. But you know what? Only people who are true and authentic and believe in the power that they are enough can do that, actually. So
that's right. That's right. And our goal is to get you to that level if you're not there, or catapult you into a higher level. If you are already at one level, go higher. Why stop? That's the whole point. And that's the whole point of the tribe. That's the whole point of all of you sharing in your comments, so that we can all share and lift each other up. We don't always have great days. Gladiator Guru and I have our moments. We have our days. We have our hours, whatever. We have our weeks sometimes, but we rely on each other. We rely on ourselves, but we also rely on the tribe to say, hey, this is what's going on with me. There's always some situation that's worse. There's always information that can be shared. And that's the whole point, is to just keep lifting up. We've got to do this as a tribe to be able to make huge changes in the world. First change starts with us, but then it spreads, and then big changes come by all people who feel that way and think that way and believe that way, working together. Okay. So that being said, let's bring our beautiful guest on today, Supriya. I like to roll my R's. She gets mad at me when I do that. So Supriya Prasad, I'm so sorry again. I keep rolling the R's. And we're going to be talking about being an empath and highly sensitive person. So good morning, Supriya.
Hi.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm even better after listening to those affirmations. Those are amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Supriya, where are you coming from? I forgot where you said that you're located.
I'm in the outskirts of Atlanta. Some people like to call it the Boondocks. So it's like Lawrenceville, but it's really not the Boondocks. It's like, it's just about a half an hour, maybe 40 minutes away from Atlanta. So.
Okay. So either way, you're in the traffic circle. You're in the, if anybody's ever been down to Atlanta, they know there's like, what is it? Is it 2 or 3 circular highways now that form around?
So there's 85, there's 75, and well, I always take I-85, and that if I ever go down there, and that's just, yeah, that's always like a trip. I mean, obviously you can go off peak, which is a little bit better. But if you were to go to, I mean, you have to either wake up really early or go really late if you want to go to the airport. And it's like, and that's even farther out too. Like that's very far out for me to go to the airport. It's like 50 miles. So to go into the airport, but yeah, like it's just a lot of traffic. I remember last year there was just there was like it made like national news. There was like a 3-hour traffic jam or something down there. We have like some of the worst traffic.
You do. I think California is like Southern California, LA area is close. And then I remember I used to travel back and forth from Connecticut to South Carolina because I used to live in South Carolina. And but I had friends in the Atlantic area, so that's why I knew that area. But I used to time it so that, especially in Washington D.C., it's the same deal. You have that circle. So I'd be like, okay, if I leave now and I'm going to be hitting D.C. around this time, oh, forget it. So let me leave at this time, or I'm going to sit and wait and relax for a little bit, and then once it calms down, then I'll leave. So, yes. So traffic, things like that, the noise, the heat that comes from it, the energy that people are putting off, all of this can be like felt by an individual who's empathic, who is highly sensitive. Wasn't that a really good segue? I didn't even do that on purpose. It just went right in. So tell us a little bit about this, Supriya. Tell us about your story, about what, why you wanted to talk about this topic.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this topic because, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm also an empathic entrepreneur. And I've been empath for as long as I can remember. I found out what I was feeling and what the name for it all when I was like 11 or 12 years old. I had my first like psychic experience when I was 8 years old. And I've always felt things at like 100, every single thing, any happy thing, any sad thing. If somebody was crying or somebody was getting berated in class or something like that, I had a feeling like I would like cry too. You know what I mean? I would go and cry. I would go and cry too. And it was funny because, this was all around when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. I would like go and cry. I would like do all this stuff, but like I didn't know what the name of it was, and like everybody was just telling me, you shouldn't be crying. Like, why are you crying? Like, you shouldn't be crying. Like, this is not right. This isn't right for you to do. And I was always known as a kid that was either happy or sad, or up until like I was, I guess, 10 or 11 or 12 years old. That way. And then of course my emotions got stoic and everything. And I had to learn, I was like, wait a minute, it's not normal to be this way. It's not normal to be this. I was like, oh wait, I thought, because as a kid, I thought it was normal to be feeling, because I thought everybody else was feeling these things too. So I was just like, wait a minute, you're not really happy for this person? Oh wait, you're not happy? Like, so that's kind of how I navigated it growing up.
Yeah, I go ahead, Gladiator Guru. No, I've been talking enough.
It is difficult, especially when people around you are unaware or are not accustomed to that gift. Did you have support?
You know, I did when I was like 11 or 12 years old. That's when my mom found out that she actually she had awakening herself, and she wanted to know if me and my brother had the same gift. So so when she found out, like, that's when I was like, that's when she was working with me. Actually, my dad was also working with me at the same time. We had a journal and everything, and that's when I found out that I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't learn like really what an empath was until like I was a little bit older and going into middle school and high school, and you know, having an unfortunate events of kids, unfortunately, you know, committing suicide and everything around the school campuses. And I learned, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was actually, when those things happened, I was taking like all the sad energy, and I was like depressed for like 2 or 3 years. And I didn't realize what that was. I thought, like, I was like, wait a minute, I don't know these guys. I don't know any of the people. However, I was just extremely depressed. And, you know, there was other things going on in my life, but I remember just going to school, just feeling incredibly sad and drained the entire time. Had no idea what that was for a long time until of course I got a little older, and I was like, oh my gosh, there was energies around me as an empath that I was like that I was absorbing. So that's when I was like, okay, like maybe I should like learn, because now that I learned this, I should learn how to do all that. But yeah, it was crazy, definitely.
Yeah, because that's when it's different steps for different situations, but it's about learning how to purge that energy off of you afterwards. That
Yes.
Sometimes is the most difficult, is to know how to open all the windows and sage and just get all that energy, remove it, because if not, it'll knock you on your ass. When I do cleansings, and if I don't do that cleansing on me afterwards, the next day I'm like a drunk, still hungover.
But that's you have to be aware of it, though. That's the like, look, so this is what Michelle Houston wrote. I was 35 before I learned that everyone doesn't feel everyone else's feelings. I had no idea. I know Michelle, and she's definitely an empath, and I, you know, it was a beautiful thing that your mother had the awakening, and that you even knew what that was at your age. I didn't know the word until I was an adult. I didn't know, because I definitely was that individual. I was very, very sensitive, the youngest of three. There was three of us total siblings. I was often made fun of, teased. Oh, there she goes crying again. I was made fun of by family members, by people that supposedly loved me, friends, whatever. And I didn't understand it, you know, and as a result, I think that a lot of individuals who are actually empathic and highly sensitive are misdiagnosed with depression. And I'm going to say it's not misdiagnosed. They're diagnosed with depression because of being an empath. And instead of teaching them how to deal with the empathic piece and the highly sensitive piece, they're treated as an individual with depression. So they're not given the skill set to be able to deal with that. And so this became really clear to me, because my one child is like this, and my one child from the get-go would pick up on people. Like I remember when she was a baby, she's now 17, but when she was a baby, she would be around another child. She'd be in a fine mood. And the minute she heard, she was a baby, she was like, I remember the first time I saw this happen, 1.5 years, another baby was crying, and she stopped, and she all of a sudden just started crying. You know, and I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden it kept happening. Like she would, if she was in a bad mood and she was around another child that was in a good mood, she would shift. She also was diagnosed with sensory integration dysfunction. So she had heightened sensation, and then hyposensation, so less than. And as a result, she really struggles as a teen because she's got a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and my inability to help her when she was younger added to this, because I was a mess myself throughout my adulthood until I hit my big shift at 45. So she was already well on her way, and it took me 2 years to get my shit together. And then by that time, she was already 13. She'd already been bullied. She lost friends. And so she was already in this really bad headspace. So this was an important conversation to me, because when you're sensitive, you're often people look at you and they make fun of you. And sometimes it's because they're sensitive too, and they don't want to be reminded, or they're not an empath and they have no concept of it. And so they shame you because they can't deal with how sensitive you are. And as a result, it really affects you mentally, and it can go all the way into your adulthood. People may never even know that they have this. They could be, our demographic are women, mostly are around, our age, middle age and up. And some of them don't even know they have this. They don't even know that's a thing. So that's why this is important conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, it's such an important conversation, because I mean, as you said, there's a lot of people, like, I feel going around, walking around, like, not knowing that they have, that are just sensitive. They, like, for the longest time, I had an aversion to the city. Like, I had an aversion to the city life. I had and I always thought, like, I always thought it was because I was like, because when I was in my 20s and like early 20s, when I graduated college, I was like, everybody around me was just going to, and at the time I was living in Chicago. So Chicagoland area, everybody was like, why don't you just like move into the city? And like, cause there's just a lot of marketing jobs there and all this. And I was just like, no, that doesn't seem appealing to me. And at the time I always thought it was because, I lived in India. I lived with my aunt and uncle in India for an entire summer. And the place where they lived is like dead center in the middle of downtown. So cars were honking like at 3 a.m. I always thought that it was because of that. I was like completely had an aversion to city life because of that. But after years and years and years like of that, and even when I was coming here, I had the choice, like to either just move into the city or just like live out in the suburbs. And then I just chose the suburbs because, quite frankly, I love the quiet. I love the quiet. I love the nature. I love everything. I mean, it's a lot about sensory for me. It's sensory for me, and which is what you're talking about, like, which is I do think that we're highly also we're highly sensory, I guess, adapted, or I don't know what the right term was, but we're highly sensitive and to sensory and all that environment too. So I've never been the person to go out into the city or to go and like live the super high strung busy like life style, which is why I have the lifestyle I have now. So
it's true. I couldn't even imagine. You must have had post-traumatic stress disorder after living in India, because I've seen footage and it's crazy. I don't know how people live like that. It's beyond, like, people say, oh, New York, oh, Manhattan is really like crazy and busy. It's like, you've never seen anything like India is just, it's all over the place. There's so much going on. And then you could go to the outskirts where it gets so much more quiet. Yep. But it's like, and same thing like Tokyo, like Japan, the lights, I couldn't do it. I don't think I could do it because it's just overstimulating. And we live in a society that is nothing but overstimulating. Yeah. And then we wonder why everybody's so miserable. Everybody's so angry. Everybody's so negative. Everybody's so depressed or anxious, probably because you don't even have to be an empath. Yeah. It's just too much. It's just too much. So you said something very key, is the fact that you recognize that it was crazy.
Yeah.
and that the suburbs work better for you. So that's the other piece here, is that for those of you that are listening, it's important for you to understand and really like take a moment for yourself and think about it. You know, have you ever walked into a room where you felt somebody's like the layout of the room? Like if it was a negative thing, you walked in, you were like, oh God, you know, that really, you don't even have to talk to anybody or look at anybody. Have you ever walked into an area where the lighting was too much, the sound was too much, that you got agitated very easily? Those are all signs that you're a sensitive individual, that if too many people are talking at one time, that it's so distracting. And rather than you filter it out or you just walk away from it, you get really, really agitated. We could go on and on, like clothes, not like feeling a certain way, and they don't feel good on you. Things feel heavy. And once you become aware of it, then what you have to do is decide. You'll never be able to escape all of it. That's the thing. So you have to work with it. You have to figure out, okay, I have to take moments to where I can regroup. I can sort of gain my energy back. And like Gladiator Guru was saying, you know, you have to get rid of it. So you have to find those moments, those places that you can go to reground yourself to when you have to go back in. So like, I don't mind Manhattan. I don't mind like big cities, but I can't live there. So if I know I'm only going there for a little while, I love it. I get into it. It's fine. But once I know I'm ready to go, like if it's too crowded, if I'm in a room where there's too many people, I just deal with it. And I say, okay, I'm only here for a certain amount of time, but I have to get out and I have to go sit somewhere and just sit for a minute and just sort of relax. But I know that about me and it helps. But when you don't know those things about you, then all of a sudden people are going, oh, that person's a pain in the ass to go places with. They're bitchy all the time. They're this all the time. And it's all you have to do is just figure out what works for you and to help you ground yourself. What do you say about that, Gladiator Guru?
I think you do. I think that also you have to adjust. If you were given a gift, because this is a gift, not everybody has it. And if people have it, they go all their life with it. And if you start saying, well, I can only do this because this bothers me, then what are you doing? Why? There's a gift that was given to you for you to do something with. It's not only for you. So I think we have to learn how to adjust. Like,
absolutely.
I grew up in spiritualism. El Espiritismo. I grew up with all that spiritual stuff, the candles, the seances, all of that. So I see from different things, but you have to learn how to adjust with the gift you're given. And you know what? Depression and schizophrenia, they're all part of the spiritual world, and people just weren't strong enough to understand it. So then they go into this dark place. Well, you were given a gift, so start digging your ass out of this dark place and learning what your gift is. And the sensitivity, yes, you can feel people's sadness. You know, if you talk to my sister, I would tell her, I don't like this person. And she goes, oh, she's good. And I said, be careful with it. And I just seen her in a picture 2 weeks later. She's like, oh my God, thank God you told me that. And the thing is, because you have to be alert. And if I'm alert, if someone is in my presence, I let them know what I'm feeling. I let them know. And if they get scared, then don't come around me, because this is who I am. So you can't cut back on who you are so people afraid that people are going to call you names. Like, I'm sorry, Badass and Supriya, we all have different stances on this, but I grew up seeing some crazy shit shy of The Exorcist, and I witnessed it. So, you know, I have feelings. I can tell something. I can say, I'm going to get a phone call, and the phone will ring. People who know me know that this is how I am. But the thing is that you have to, I embraced it. You know, in the Espiritismo stuff, you know, I believe in God. He's the one above everything else. I believe in Jesus. I believe that God sends legions of angels to protect us, which in turn turns into guardians, you know. So then you got them from all over the world. You know, I mean, we can go on and on and on. I can name some of mine. But the thing is that I think that when you do learn and when you do have the guidance to help you, you know, and people want to call you a crier, fuck it. Let them call you. You know what you're feeling. You don't have to express to them the discomforts that you're feeling. And I think once you do that and you pull off the mask of people pleasing and worrying about what the hell people are going to say because you're crying or because you're sensitive to this, you're never going to develop that true gift that you were given. And that's just, I'm sorry, Supriya, but that's just it. You have to be true to who you are with the gifts you're given, and who gives a fuck about who thinks you're a crier or who thinks you're too. I don't want to go over there because Supriya's so sensitive. She don't even want to go shopping in the mall on a Saturday because it's too crowded. Then don't invite me. If you know how I am, don't invite me, and you won't get your feelings hurt when I.
Well, that's it. It's just stepping into. And I was actually called that. I attended a couple of work meetings, and my work was very like it was more insightful than most places. We'd start with meditation because of where I worked. Mm-hmm. And I was going through some really heavy stuff, and it was harder for me to control my emotions. And this one thing, like they asked us, what's your favorite quote? And everybody went around, and I said, like, one of my favorite quotes is to the world you are one person, but to one person you are the world. And I started to say it, and I got really emotional. And I started crying, and then I said, it was just a really bad year. For years, it was a bad year, but it was a really bad year. And there was a few teachers that I didn't know, hadn't met yet, and I had been there already a couple of years. And one of them, and I ended up becoming friends with her, but she actually labeled me as, "Oh, you're the crier." She actually said that to me in the faculty room like a week later. She goes, "Oh yeah, you're the crier." And I wanted to punch her in the fucking face. I was just like, "Fuck you."
I should have said, "Oh, you know that about me? Did you bring the box of tissue?" Bitch, God, I know who I am. And it's okay. I've always envied somebody who can express that emotion, who can cry, because it's always been very, very difficult for me. My voice will crack if I'm telling you something sad. And to me, oh my God, I cried when I was talking to Lori. Because to me, that's crying. So, and I feel it. So I have to find other ways, which would be through my art and writing, how I transfer that energy out. So I love when people are able to cry at the drop of a hat, because my sister Jan is like that, and God fucking knows Irita's like that. So it's just, that's a gift too, to be able to cry.
So how do you navigate, Supriya? Like, what do you recommend to people, since you really knew this, which really just that itself is a gift that you knew at 11. What do you recommend? How could they also guide? Maybe they're looking at their children too, their grandchildren, and seeing these things. How could they nurture that? What do you recommend?
Oh, like one of the things that I highly recommend to empaths or highly sensitive people, people who are, and I hate this word, but quote unquote emotional, because it has such a negative connotation with it, emotional. Yes. And I feel like we need to take back.
It's a bad word. I think it's a bad word when people accuse, "Oh, you're emotional." Yeah. To me, that's like them telling me to go fuck myself.
Do you know? But here, wait. But before you go on, Supriya, the irony about that is we're all emotional. Humans are emotional. We are emotional learners. We are emotional creatures. I know this because I taught this freaking for years about the anatomy and of the human body, and so. We are all that way. So if you're pissy, like if you're an a-hole and you're a mean person and you're always angry, you're emotional. But it's the negative, it's the emotional pieces. They say, oh, that you cry all the time. That's the piece. But when somebody says, oh, you're really emotional, everyone is. The only people aren't are people like psychopaths. They're not emotional. That's what makes them psychopaths. So,
yeah, but when people say that, it's derogative when they tell you that, when you're emotional.
Right.
Exactly. I feel like we should take back that word too, as well. Like,
absolutely.
We should absolutely take back that word. So one of the things that I highly recommend for anybody who is under those, who is like an empath, highly sensitive person, or just somebody who is just sensitive to sensitive to sensory. And I feel like I made up that phrase, but sensitive to sensory.
Go to Bria.
But anybody is setting those boundaries. I think setting boundaries as an empath is so important. Setting a boundary, setting hard boundaries, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your work, whether it's with your family, your friends, anybody, setting all those boundaries is so helpful with yourself. And of course, if you have sage and all that stuff, if you know that you're around a negative or toxic person, that you can't kick out of the house or get away from, or just, can't leave because you're in a work environment, or it's somebody that you work with, anybody like that. Like sage, I heard dragon's blood sage also works wonders. I heard, I've never used it. A friend of mine has, and she said that works wonders too. And of course, like grounding yourself. And I'm what they call an airy. I'm what they call an air. I'm an all air sign. So I'm Aquarius rising, Gemini sun, and Libra moon. So I'm the airy fairy. So it's so important for me to ground myself, not only as an empath, but just my whole makeup is very much what they call in the clouds. So I have to ground myself, and it's so important to like get out, be in nature. And that's why I live like in a suburb like Lawrenceville, where you can easily just go in the backyard. And what I like to do is talk to the trees. I talk to the trees and be in the sun, talk to the trees, have them whatever comes to me will come to me in there, and just be in even if it's for 30 seconds, I do it through my day, because God knows I'll have like back-to-back calls every day, and it gets so busy. But it's just so important. And even on social media too, I think the best advice I ever got from social media from a fellow empath was turn it off 30 minutes before bed, at least 30 minutes.
Oh yeah.
It's just I did not take that advice one time, and I actually found out like right before I went to bed that somebody, a classmate of an old high school classmate of mine, passed away. So that's what I was thinking about like the entire night. And she was just a day older than me, like literally a day older than me.
Oh my gosh.
And it was so, I was like feeling so sad. Like, so that's when I made the rule, like no social media before bed. No, like put like that boundary on, put boundaries on with family too. Cause sometimes family can be like over, like, I don't know if you, my family's Indian. So like, they're always like
in your face.
They're always like,
there's no different. Let me tell you, there is no difference. We always talk about diversity, over different culture, but there's so many similarities. Italians are the same way. Puerto Ricans are the same way. They're loud. I mean, I don't know. I'm Indian people generally loud because I don't think they're so loud, but Italians and Puerto Ricans, forget it. Oh my God. You can't even, and it's like chaotic. And sometimes it's okay if going in. Yes. But you're right. Boundaries with family, because like with me, hey, listen, I watch something on TV, I watch a movie and I'll cry. Like I'm a crier, and I'm okay with that. I wasn't before because people used to make fun of it. So I don't watch those things with my family anymore. Because to this day, even though I set boundaries, they'll still, oh, there goes mom again, or there goes. And I've pointed it out. I said, listen, then I'm just going to watch by myself, because I'm not going to listen to you kind of try to make fun of me, because I grew up with a narcissistic family member. I grew up with a sister who closed off because of the narcissistic family member that was with us all the time. And being sensitive and being around a narcissist is really, that's like the worst combination to be. And so my sister, bless her, she's like more, she doesn't cry for anything. But I think she needs to, because I think she is more sensitive, but she grew up so much closer to the narcissist that she had to protect herself, and she figured that out at an early age. So I think that the boundaries are a big thing. And I just want to share, I'm going to let you continue what you're saying, but I just want to share a couple things because this is interesting. So Alice says, this is all speaking to me. Crowds are so overwhelming to me, and I need to take some time. Also, it took me a long time into my 40s to go with my gut when meeting people. So you see, like a lot of women and men just don't realize that they have this. But then here's the opposite. And I thought this was very interesting that Chanel said, where did Chanel put it? Here it is. Okay. So Chanel said, so interesting because I had no idea this was a thing and it is so hard for me to cry. I became a little more sensitive after having my child, but before that I wasn't. I have emotions, but I'm not emotional. And so that's the other end of this, that she's not an empath or HSP, but actually she could be, it's hard to say, but you either are too sensitive and that's a bad thing, or as women, you're not sensitive enough and that's a bad thing. In the end, what is it? So like I've seen this happen with women where they're with their kids and they're not as emotional, and people, oh, how could you not be that way? They're your children, blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? I mean, you could be compassionate, you can be loving, you just don't have to be outwardly emotional.
Afraid, because my kids, I would say, stop running, you're gonna fall. Stop running, you're gonna fall. The third time they fall, they cry. I hit them, they cry some more.
Old school. Oh, look at that. She stopped right in the middle of that one. Oh my God. It was God coming down. I'm like, oh God, this is funny. Well, she'll come back. She'll come back in a second, but her point is that she was getting them to understand that she said this, they didn't listen, they cried, and then she's going to come back and then sort of come back with it and say, you can either be really sensitive to this, or you could just get up and keep going. Boy, what a position for her to freeze in.
I know, right?
She's going to be like, what the hell? So we'll get back to her in a second when she comes back on. But so keep going with the boundaries, and then when she comes back on, she can finish what she was saying.
The boundaries and like putting yourself boundaries. So having like a hard stop, a soft stop, and a hard stop, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your work, what have you. And hopefully you're at a job that they let you go at that goes 8 hours, and then you can leave. Hopefully it's like that for you guys, and they don't put a soft stop at 5, because that's what happened to me at one of my positions. That they're like, 5 o'clock, you get to go home, but not really. Not really. So, but yes, hopefully you have a job that's like that. But the other thing is also, it doesn't, like there, and I was talking to another an empath coach who said, it doesn't have to be like all negative, like, because you're an empath, the best thing about it is that you get to feel positive things as well at 100 too. So you get to be happy and when somebody is happy, you get to be happy as well. You get to be, you feel all these amazing feelings of joy. And I feel that that's actually really beautiful. And I feel most of us also create wonderful art, as well, whether it's poetry. At least a lot of the empaths I know, they create wonderful art and wonderful creative things, and you get to channel all of that into all these amazing things and let people feel like whatever you're putting all of your emotions and all of what you feel into the day into this wonderful art. So having a creative outlet for all of that. Whether if you're a writer, you can journal, you can write your own stories. Right. Whether you're an artist, you can create amazing works of art, or create a movie, create like all this stuff and like post it to social media, have everybody like see it as well. So channeling all of that, channeling all of your emotions and everything into like a place that you can just release it into, and have like wonderful little outlets that you can share it to. I think it's really important.
Well, like for instance, Michelle Houston writes, that's how I create my jewelry, and she does phenomenal, very earthy work. And so yeah, you could tell by what she's doing. The key thing here is, number one, recognizing that you are this way, being okay with it, like literally taking a moment today and writing down, like sitting there and saying, okay, let me think about this for a minute. Am I sensitive? Am I highly sensitive? What, can I connect with people? And when you really sit and take the moment and think about it, maybe not today, but, over the next few days, and then just list like incidences of when that's happened throughout your life, then say, am I okay with this? And if you say, I'm not okay with this, I mean, it is who you are, but you will become okay with it if you know that this is who you are. So it's about being your authentic self and being okay with being your authentic self. And then once you decide, okay, I am okay with this, this is who I am, this is it. Then you learn how to navigate it. You learn how to create those boundaries. You learn how to, speak up for yourself. And I mean, to this day, like I used to say, I really hated the fact that I was that sensitive. It was more problematic to me because I also was not very assertive because I was always really nervous. But then I realized that the assertiveness has nothing to do with the sensitivity. It's once I owned who I was, I had no problem being assertive and standing up for myself. So they were like two different things, but I was blaming them that like one was for the other. But once I became sensitive, once I owned my sensitivity, I said, okay, how do I use this to my advantage? Like, how can I make this work for me? And because I coach people, I can, or I'm not even just coaching, I teach workshops. I can connect with people, even in a large crowd, and they'll come up, like I can find them as I'm speaking and I'll be saying something and I'll look right at somebody. And then I know this because I don't know why I look at them, but then all of a sudden at the end, they'll come up and say, oh my God, you were talking right to me and you looked right at me. And I just was like, how does she know this? And it's because I just opened myself up to the fact that this is who I am. And I lean with it as opposed to hide it, like a vulnerability. Like I feel it's like one of my superpowers. And I think once people get that, so my 17-year-old, I'm trying to program her to say, or reprogram really is to say it's a gift. Because she's not buying it. She's just like, I hate that I'm sensitive. I hate that I said, no, you just don't know how to work it yet. And she's more sensitive than I ever was. So it's incredibly hard for her. And I'm still learning how to navigate with her, Oh, here she is. Gladiator Guru's back.
So a truck went by and everything went off in the house.
Oh my gosh. So
Here I am. So what did I miss?
What were you saying? Do you remember what you were saying? We caught you in such a position that Michelle Houston said she screenshot it because she had to let you see what you looked like in the you were like this. It was hilarious. So
thanks, Michelle. I don't know what were we I don't know.
It was talking about your kids and
when you hit them. That's what it was.
And I was always labeled as being mean and cold-hearted because I was like, stop crying, pick yourself up. I didn't care how old you were. If it was something that you could have handled, but you'd rather just slump down crying, no, because I tell you, I come from a very heavy spiritual background. And I believe that I wear that label as being mean very proudly because it got me through life. It's like things happen and your heart shatters into a million pieces, but it's how you rise during it and after it. And I believe that if you are, where did this highly sensitive person label? When was it introduced into society?
Oh, HSP? Goodness. Good question. Probably about the last 20 years, I would say. Yeah. I think I think empath, that term came before, but HSP is probably within the last 20 years. Okay. Yeah. And it's still not talked about that much. Most people don't realize that.
No, but if that's what the person is, you got to respect it. Just like I'm okay wearing the mean label, which Iritza can attest to and some of my family members. But it's when I tell them, get up, come on, let's do it. They do it. They follow through with what they had to do before they had that mini breakdown. It's about allowing yourself a pity party just for the moment and getting up, in my view. But highly sensitive people, I've come across them. I don't know. I'm like a magnet for them.
Because you're strong, you have strength. So a lot of times it's because that they but at the same time, it could be very tumultuous, because sometimes people such as yourself are very strong, get very aggravated with the person who's very sensitive.
I used to,
and
yes.
then the sensitive person gets very intimidated by the strong person.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, though, they need each other.
Mhm.
And going with what you were saying with your children, short-lived pity parties, it's a very tough navigation when you're raising children or you have grandchildren. Because I'm not going to say the adults, because we're already there, but it's when you're raising children and grandchildren, when they're highly sensitive, it's a very tough navigation to help them gain strength and honor the fact that they're sensitive and not enable them. Because if you enable a highly sensitive child, it's going to make the situation worse. So you have to figure out the way to navigate that. So Supriya, you have any thoughts on that? Like any insights potentially for that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to definitely learn how to navigate around, being a highly sensitive person, an empath, and really, because unfortunately we still live in 3D. We still live in 3D. We still live in like this world, and it's hard. So that's why I do recommend like the journaling and all that stuff. But going in, and going, of course, going within yourself, having conversations. And I always had conversations with maybe 2, 3, or 4 people at a time. I don't like being in big groups. I mean, as an empath, I don't like being in big groups.
Because you feel all the energies, you feel all the
Yeah.
sadness, you feel the joy, and it gets very confusing all at the same time coming at you. Yeah,
exactly. And I don't know if you're familiar with Clubhouse, but I'm on. I actually almost deleted Clubhouse because I was in all those big rooms.
I actually deleted it. It was a bit much.
Yeah.
And some people want to call themselves empaths, and they're not. And you can feel it in their energy through their voice. And I'm like, I just can't with fake people.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, it was really hard for me, and that's when I knew I was just like, maybe I shouldn't be in the big marketing rooms. And that's when I discovered, I was like, one of my friends like got on it. I only was in her rooms or another person's rooms because those are really small. So and I could feel out the room better. So like that's how I was able to navigate like around social media. That's actually something else that I also get asked too, is navigating social media as an empath, because everybody wants to delete their Facebook every other week. And I always tell people, either block or unfollow a person that's really toxic on your social media.
Yes.
Unfollow.
That's right.
It's always the block or unfollow feature. Most places, well, Facebook has the unfollow feature, but like most places have a block feature. So it's just a better way of like just controlling your feed. You can always control like what you see in your feed. And of course, unless you're somebody like me who deals with social media on a daily basis, you don't need to be on it for like more than 2 hours at a time, personally.
Absolutely. I think when where people are highly sensitive to energy, we're not going to call them that they're sensitive. They're highly sensitive to the energies around them, because we are a spirit living in a human world. And when people can actually admit that, then it's easily to navigate the waters. And so if you are, then absolutely have the boundaries, know where you work best, and that's how you do it. You don't have to be in the inn. You do the marketing, so you're working that well. You know how long you can be on it, what you got to talk about, then get your ass off and recharge yourself. You have to learn how to recharge. And by doing so, nature is the best thing. Go walk barefoot outside. Go hug a tree. Sit outside. Listen to the birds sing. All of that melodic music and smell. Use all your senses. That also calms the spirit.
Yes.
You said something about dragon blood sage. I only use the sage from the Native Americans. I don't use anything with added ingredients. What I do with the dragon blood, I get the incense.
Mm.
The powdered incense, and you put it on charcoal,
Mm.
and you cleanse your house with that one, and that is good. So I mean, there's many different roads you can take, and you just got to learn which one works well with your spirit. And then
That's
Yes.
you
right.
take it from there, because it's all about spirit, and it's all about the higher power, and it's all about saying, help me navigate through this, because you were given a gift, but we're also given free will, and it's how we choose to use it. And if you're given that gift, then it's because you're supposed to use it. So you're gonna have to learn how to it's like training a horse, a wild horse, to be in the barn, and you be able to brush it and eventually ride it, right? It takes time to learn it, and they can't tell you what they're feeling, but we still, as humans, we learn it. And that's what we have to do. We have to give ourselves the same time to learn, what is it about my spirit that differs from others, and how do I navigate it to the best of my abilities.
Correct. And if
And
you need help learning, then you seek
then you
help.
reach out to a soul
Yeah.
tribe that shares
Yep.
the same things, and maybe everybody's gift is different, but it's about, this is what I did that worked for me, and you take a little bit, and that's how we do. We take a little bit and we create our own, our
Yep.
own world where we are fine with it, and then we can go out and navigate the outer world.
So with that, Supriya, we're out of time, but where could people find you
Yes.
if they want to work with you, or and then we're
Yeah.
going to put it up on as well.
Yeah. I'm on pretty much everywhere, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok,
We gotta
all of
find each other
YouTube.
on all those social medias, because I've been loving me some TikTok.
Yeah. I'm on everywhere as Supriya, SUPRIYA.digital, DIGITAL.
.digital.
Oh, we lost her again. My goodness. So it's at Supriya. Okay, I'm going to just write this in. Usually I'm good about this, and I have it already. For some odd reason, I didn't. Supriya, what is it? .digital?
.digital, yep.
Okay. All right. And we'll put that in there, and let's bring her back in.
I'm sorry.
And I'll see if I could quickly, it's okay. I'll see if I could quickly create a banner. Okay, so at Supriya. You guys could keep talking while I do this.
Yeah.
Usually I'm really good about it.
And like today, we were all different, and we all share a similar gift, but we handle it differently. And that's how I love these shows to be. I like for the guest and the co-host to share their different points of views, because that's real and that's raw, and that's what the show is about, without offending anybody. But I can't apologize for my beliefs and how I've navigated my gifts. If someone else gets offended, it's how they're taking it. I'm not saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And I think that's the beauty of conversation and communicating the different things that we are aware of, and the knowledge that we hold. And what's the best way to release it is by sharing it. So
that's right. That's
Yes.
right. So great. So Supriya, thank you so much for coming on. We'd love to have you on again. If you ever want to come on again, we'd love to have you. And we, so just a reminder, everybody. So today's Thursday. Tomorrow, let's put that up there. We have Viva After Dark. So don't forget Viva Moms After Dark. So if you are up 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., please join us, join the conversation. We're going to have a couple of guests on. You can call in. However, we do have 2 guests on, so you can call in with regards to what their conversations are going to be about. But you can click onto the Facebook page events, and you can see the number to call in. And we also let you know what the number is while we're broadcasting. And if you miss it, you can always find that on. I have so many things. We are always available on iHeartRadio. And actually, let me see. I put the wrong one up. There we go. It's this one. iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Player FM. And then again, next week, we are going to be talking about The Power of Pussy. Special guest, Byron Roquemore. So those of you that love Byron, you definitely want to show up for that one. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming on. Thank you to our guest, Supriya Prasad. We are so thrilled that you were here. It was a great conversation. As you could see, we went 10 minutes over. So, we wanted to make sure that you got a lot in. So anyway, any last minute things you'd like to say to everybody, Supriya, before you hang up?
No, just yeah, I mean there's so much like an empath can do. Like, I mean, we're all moms, sisters, like daughters, like people who just who are sensitive. I mean, if you think that you are like a highly sensitive person, definitely feel free to like either reach. I'm a good source. I'm a good source, and I'm sure that Vita's a good source. Gladiator Guru is a good source. To just talk about it. I mean, the first thing you have to do is just talk about it with somebody else. And it doesn't have to be me. Just go ahead and like have the conversation. I think that's just important.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. Are we ready to go, Gladiator Guru?
Yes.
Signing off. All right, everybody. We'll see you. We'll listen to you. You'll listen to us tomorrow night. So make sure you catch the show. And then we'll see you back with Viva Cafe con Leche on Tuesday morning. So have a wonderful weekend. And from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
Yes, mi gente. Thank you for joining us. And remember, breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone.